Welcome to Bennett's BikeSocial, welcome to the amazing backdrop that is Cape Town, and welcome to a very dirty and very extreme new Norden 901 expedition. Now, if you cast your mind back, I rode the 901 standard Norden in the Azores about a year ago. Now, what happened with that standard 901 was it borrowed all the components from KTM, which is brilliant because we know the engine works and everything works, and they sat it in the middle. So you had a KTM 890, you had a KTM 890R, and the Norden went in the middle. And in my mind, the new expedition goes slightly above that, more towards the KTM 890R. So let me run what they've done to this bike and how it differs from the Norden. So they've made it more extreme and more off-road orientated. So we've got thicker forks with more travel and higher. We've got a bigger shock, which is longer with more travel. We've got more ground clearance. We've got a higher seat. We've got the big screen as standard. We've got the GPS mount as standard. We've got the heated grips and the heated seat, all as standard. Saddlebags, I think off the top of my head, they're 18 litres per side, and the rack, they're also standard. In terms of electronics, the optional Explorer mode on the Norden is now standard on this mode. And what that mode does is allows you to personalise the off-road settings or the road settings to how and where you want to ride. The bike, as it comes, this is standard. So the standard Norden in the UK is 12,699, and this one is 13,599. So it's just about £1,000 difference. In terms of horsepower and chassis, it's exactly the same as the Norden, which is exactly the same as both 890s. This is going to be absolutely epic. We've got 2 days of riding here in Africa. We've got all the luggage filled full of clothes and kit. We're going to be camping out tonight. It's just going to be just one of those memorable, awesome trips. So we're just kind of on these, well, they're kind of dirt tracks. I mean, it is dirty, it is dusty. It's really cool that, you know, you've been riding for quite a long time off-road and there's no roads yet. The only thing you've got to be careful of is the dust clouds, because it's really, really dusty because it's so dry. And every now and then with the bikes in front you get like a massive dust cloud. But like the Norden expedition feels like nothing's a challenge so far. Sit back down, get behind that bigger screen. Enjoy it. How cool are they? Never actually seen penguins in the wild, I don't think I have. So we've just reached the top of this mountain. The off-road riding was incredible. Down there is Cape Town, over there is Tabletop Mountain. So one side is the Atlantic, one side is the Indian. We're above cloud. Not quite sure how high we are. And some of the trails around here have just been deep, horrible sand. But wow. I mean, I've crashed about 5 or 6 times now. I followed off upside down in a hedge. Now I'm trying to get through all this deep sand. Oh. As you can tell by the state of the bike, this is hard going now. So heading off for some more kind of adventurous stuff now. But we're in off-road mode, yeah, off-road. I got off-road ABS, off-road traction control, off-road fueling. So it's all calibrated depending on the different mode that you're in. Right, a bit sandy there. I mean, I can turn the traction off whilst on the move, but the off-road traction control is pretty good, so it's like, well, it's not pretty good, it's very good. Oh, wet rocks. So apparently we got 50k of this, so I need to save me energy a bit. But look at that. This is kind of what I was expecting. So we are finally coming to the end of day one of the Norden expedition launch in Africa. Tonight we're going to be camping out. We've done about 300 kilometers, mainly off-road. To be fair, I would probably say 80% off-road today. What a challenge. I've fallen off 3 or 4 times. I've helped people out of holes and ditches. Everybody's kind of stuck in. It's been dusty. It's been really hard work, but that equally makes it rewarding. Just so much fun. The big difference is the suspension and the big screen and the few extras. So essentially get the Norden, jack it up a little bit, make it more off-road orientated, give it bigger, beefier forks, bit more quality suspension, more ground clearance, big massive bash plate, and get ready for some off-road. Now we've done off-road and on-road, which is normally what you do on a launch. You do a little bit of road, you do a bit of off-road. We had a stint yesterday that was an hour of sat between 100 and 120 kilometers an hour. Just sat for an hour off-road with the cruise control and rolling on and off between the throttle. We've done high-speed touring, we've done high-speed handling. Today we've done rocks, riverbeds, sand, more sand, off on road, and I've been laid under it, on top of it, I've been over the bars and I've done everything. But not because there's a fault of the bike, it's just because I'm shattered and I'm not that great at riding a big bike like this through deep sand. But what a thoroughly enjoyable experience. And to say that I've crashed it 8 times, the handguards didn't break, the mirrors didn't spin round, the screen didn't crack, and I've been following guys who, Dakar riders, 5 times Dakar winners, who've been throwing rocks at this thing. I have basically been the burden of everybody's jokes and thoroughly enjoyed it. This has bounced off rocks. I've absolutely tried to break it and it's not broken. So we're all getting ready for day 2. Day 1 was 300 kilometers, mainly off-road. A lot of it was quite fast, like 100 kilometers, 110 kilometers. Woo, what a ride. So it's like 20 past 1. I'm coughing on dust. 27 degrees. Yeah, this is a pretty special trip. I'm getting a lot more used to the modes and the switches now, which is like the KTM with its quadruple or quadrant of switches on the left side. So yeah, getting much more accustomed to it. So I jump on now and I can switch off the traction control in like probably 8 or 9 seconds. And yeah, jumping between the modes, you can definitely feel it. So I think I'll play with the modes a little bit more after lunch. Also thinking of changing the suspension just a little, because the luggage is full on the back, so I've got more weight on the back, so I might change a little bit on the rear. And the forks do dive a lot under braking. It's controlled, but it's just like a little bit more control on the first little bit. We've got the panniers that you can see on the bikes in front of us. So those panniers are standard. Centre stand is standard. Big bash plate, standard. The big screen, standard. Heated seat, heated grips, all standard. So we've had to slow down for baboons. Oh, little family. And then finally, on the last bit today, it was a real epiphany, because we went from high-speed off-road into a town to high-speed road, where I was going around corners at 140, 150 kilometers an hour, going, well, this is crazy. I've got grip, I've got feel, it feels great, yet 2 hours ago, I was in the bottom of a riverbed trying to dig it out, and it survived. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. For me, in my mind, it's above the Norden 901, but it's not as extreme as the KTM 890. If you're a heavier rider and you're used to riding off-road really hard, and I mean hard, like fourth gear, wide open, like in Spain or in Portugal or in Oz, then I can see you want to play with the suspension a little bit more towards the KTM 890R. But for everybody else, like me in the UK, who's not going to hopefully be riding fourth gear, wide open off-road, scaring hikers, then this is the perfect remedy, the perfect bike for that. If I was going to pick some niggles, it's pretty difficult to do, but when you've had 2 days on the bike, you start to find a few. This is about 10 kilograms heavier than the standard Norden. It's also considerably higher seat height, more ground clearance, longer travel suspension. I'm 5'7" and I've coped with it, but there are a few moments where I've gone, whew, that is tall. But that's not a fault of the bike, that's a fault of me being a dwarf, not a fault of the bike. And if you want a bike that's going to work off-road, you need long travel suspension. Second, when you go through the screen, it's informative, it's pretty simple, it's easy to use, but you have to go within a screen, within a screen, within a screen to change a few bits. If you're at a standstill, it takes me 5 seconds to switch off the traction. It takes me 6 seconds to go between the modes. But when you're riding off-road at 60 miles an hour on gravel, watching out for baboons and other wildlife, I want that to take a split second to change between modes, which does happen on some of the competition. It's not as intuitive as I want it to be, but it's good. It's not bad, it's just that I just want it to be a little bit quicker and a little bit simpler. And secondly, the brakes, more than adequate. The stopping 211 kilograms, add the luggage, more than sufficient. But I had the same problem with the Norden and I had the same problem with the KTMs. They're not on par with the competition. And when I say competition, to me, the competition to this is Ducati's Desert X, which has got superbike brakes and superbike forks. But it's probably not as good as the Norden off-road. But for what we've done here in Africa, it's been actually quite emotional. I honestly don't want to give the bike back. I wouldn't do this trip on any other bike. I think the KTM 890R for me would be a little bit too extreme. And the fact that I've got everything, I've got all my clothes and all my luggage. We camped out last night. I didn't have to carry anything excessive. It all went in the panniers. I dropped it countless times, picked it up and it never missed a beat. Nothing broke, nothing snapped. Just thoroughly enjoyed this trip. You know that a manufacturer has produced a good bike when they give you 2 days, 600 kilometers and every terrain imaginable to put it through its paces. The only big test for this will be when we put it against the competition. I don't think the guys at BikeSocial are going to send me back to Cape Town to do that, but I am looking forward to the group test. Woo! This is one of those trips that I'm going to be boring people with for years.